Welcome to another High Ground podcast. I'm Stevie W.
Callum, sorry, stuff in my face right now as well.
So that's what I like is we're actually way we do these things because it's the High Ground podcast is never meant to be all serious and like
No, academia.
yeah. This is just us two talking, discussing movies.
Shooting the shit.
Yeah, exactly. And today we are looking at the rise and fall of zombie cinema.
Ooh.
So this is actually I got it. Like I've said, if you've listened to any of the other podcasts, I am not a horror fan. So this is all like bang straight research and everything.
We're the
so,
opposite, aren't we? Like,
yeah,
I'm mad horror and you're not.
I do. Actually, it's just it. I have reasons for not doing horror, but that's for another story, which is also one of my notes. This, but zombie horror is one of the things. It's always, I've always liked zombie horror.
Yeah, it's got a message.
Yeah, I've never watched The Walking Dead because when it was on, it was always clashing with other stuff.
Walking Dead's like, once you get past season 3, it's the same show every season.
So
it's not great.
So what we'll do is we'll just concentrate on the movies.
Yeah.
And after this, we're going to be watching Night of the Living Dead, which is one I haven't actually seen. But I remember at one point, when the after the mid '80s, zombie movies, because of the whole slasher genre, were the dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Excuse the pun.
Yeah. So it wasn't until 28 days later,
Yeah.
and Resident Evil.
I'd say 100% 28 Days Later. Even though it's not a zombie film technically, the aesthetics and the dynamics.
How do you define that? I actually think it is. Okay, it's an incurable.
Well, because
virus.
they're not dead, are they? They're just insane. Or they've had their inhibitions removed, shall we say. But I think if you go straight from this to the Dawn remake, it's so clear.
Yeah.
They didn't copy, they were inspired by, in quote marks, the running zombies, and all you ever see after this point is running zombies.
I actually I mean, first time I watched 28 Days was a few times when it was on the movie channels. I'd always missed the start, so I missed the bit where you find out it's rage-infected monkeys.
Yeah.
And when I found that
Only
bit,
part of that film you could cut out and it wouldn't matter.
I like the way when he wakes up in the hospital and you don't know. To me, that should be the start. But rage-infecting monkeys, the acting was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Don't do that. It's the rage.
Infected with what? Rage.
Rage. It's a guy called David Schneider. As soon as you see his face,
He is a child. He's a children's actor actually. So
oh.
a lot of the time, he's on like children's TV shows.
No wonder I don't know who he is. All I know is the rage. And but other than that, it's yeah. But you think about it, then there was a whole period where it was just zombie. Thank you, Resident Evil.
And then that's what led into things like The Walking Dead, because the Renaissance most certainly happened with 28 Days Later. Even 28 Weeks. It's kind of it's a sequel, but to me it seems more like a playing around in that same world, because they sort of go a little bit. I think they take the zombie thing a bit too far in 28 Weeks, because I'm sure there's a scene where there's a helicopter that chops a load of them up in a field. I don't know if you remember that bit.
Yeah, towards the end.
And there's a guy in half like still crawling, and you think, but they're just human. Like, how are they still alive? Do you know, like,
yeah.
No, I think like that they got a bit carried away with the zombie thing because of that. But it's 100% of 28 Days Later is like that's ground zero for the Renaissance. Just as Night of the Living Dead is ground zero for the whole thing.
What year? Let's have a quick look. What year Resident Evil was?
2002.
So you did back essentially the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was. I mean, I know it's based on a video game. I don't play video games, but I do like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I like them. They're good fun.
But
I'd arguably say that they were semi-responsible as well for the rebirth.
And you got the Resident Evil, the second one, that's got
Apocalypse.
Yeah.
2004, I think that was.
Which has got Sienna Galori in it, who was.
It's from Kettering.
She's from Kettering.
Which is just the next town over from us.
Yeah, and she was in Stan Lee's Lucky Man. Jill Valentine. I thought she was she was
good.
fit.
Yeah. If you play the game, she looks exactly like Jill Valentine.
And
oh, she's the cheating scumbag sister-in-law in Love Actually as well. I forgot about
Oh. I don't know. She's in Lucky Man. She's really good in Lucky Man. Stan Lee's Lucky Man, which is really really good. But you know, this is when I was single when majority of the Resident Evil came out, and
that. Oh,
you
so
know,
was I. Yeah.
so you're watching them in the cinema. Then the time it comes, in every film, the first two, Mila Jovovich gets her hoo-hoos out,
Yeah.
and then but the one that goes
Such
to
as they
3D, they wouldn't do. But as soon as she goes to 3D,
Yeah.
this just stops getting out. It's like thinking, I know she started like thinking, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Go
No,
3D, she stops getting them out. Yeah, that's fun. But I can't say that now because I'm in a happy relationship, and saying things like that would get me in the doghouse.
in the shit.
Yes. So, but 28. Let's go back. Night of the Living Dead, which we're going to watch straight afterwards, which
Yeah.
is like the iconic one.
It's ground zero.
Yeah.
1968. You've got civil rights movement, Vietnam. Everything's ripe for this sort of, society tearing itself apart metaphor. And you can't mention zombie cinema without mentioning George Romero. It's impossible. It's like mentioning Star Wars without George Lucas. It's the other George that did a good trilogy and a shit one.
Yeah. He single-handedly invented the genre, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, zombies before that, they were like Hammer zombies, like they were controlled by voodoo, or the zombies themselves were the victims because it was people being controlled. I think the first zombie film, if I'm not mistaken, to have the word zombie in its title was White Zombie, 1932 with Bela Lugosi. But yeah, again in that the zombies are like under the thrall of a sorcerer, so that the way we mean the word zombie now is single-handedly down to George Romero.
That's what 1932, Bela Lugosi. A young man turns to a witch doctor to lure the woman he loves away from her fiance, but he turns into a zombie slave.
So they're
Right.
slaves,
Yeah.
or like Plague of the Zombies, Hammer's film, or I Walked with a Zombie. Those sort of things. They're all the same thing. Like it's people being controlled. The zombies were controlled, whereas this time, it's the opposite. The zombie menace is out of control, and I think it's the metaphor for society being out of control and eating itself. You couldn't get any more on the nose than that.
You say Night of the Living Dead is, if I'm right, a metaphor for the nuclear.
Yeah, because they do mention. I can't remember if it's like explicitly mentioned, but they mention a probe that's in space and it's supposed to something to do with Venus or. But they don't. They never specifically mention a cause in any Dead film for how it happened, which is good because you don't need to know.
I like that. I like the ambiguity of so you don't know. That's like again we were just saying a bit earlier. What peed me off about 28 Days is the start of the actually this is it.
Yeah, I mean, like you don't need to be told that those monkeys were infected with something because the way that they're filmed and the editing, it's just pretty obvious. I mean, and like you say, you could have deleted that whole sequence. That sequence actually feels like a deleted scene to me that they added in at the request of the studio.
Because you have to spell it out.
Yeah.
Some
people are stupid.
Yeah, they want to know everything because you can't go out to cinema happy unless they know what started it off.
And something like Dawn of the Dead, which is my favourite horror film of all time, that would not succeed today, I don't think, because nothing is explained, and because it's so bleak, and especially Night of the Living Dead. I mean, wait till you watch it and you see the bleak ending. You don't get films like that very often anymore.
No, because as soon as you do, you get a test audience and you get a rewrite.
Exactly, and it's so obvious what's been reshot and what's not.
Because you've got to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
The heroes have to live. You mean even if I'm right, Dawn of the Dead, the original ending was them all committing suicide.
Yeah, Peter shoots himself and Fran jumps up into the helicopter blades, which they actually built a mock-up. Tom Savini built a mock-up dummy, which actually was ready to shoot. And there are some like urban legends and myths that they did film that sequence, but it was never found or it was destroyed. But like you say, they had. I mean, if you watch Day of the Dead, that's so bleak. That is bleak beyond belief, and that even suffered. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's proper 80s dead film. But even that, when that was made, that was sort of zombies on the way out in '86. Even I mean, because Romero if you read the original script of Dead, it's basically what became Land of the Dead. There's like a train that they go around in, and it's armoured and that. So it's basically the Dead Reckoning from Land of the Dead. But he was given only because he had to go unrated, because to do that script the studio stipulated that he'd change it to an R rating, and he basically said no, because that would take my message away and what I want to make. So he made it unrated, which slashed his budget by half. But in the end, I think that makes that film so much better. It's so claustrophobic, that film, because of what they couldn't do. It ends up being one of those little sort of flukes that works.
And the bear has been about 20 years since we've seen Day of the Dead. If I'm right, it's where it's changed from the zombies being the bad ones to the humans being the bad ones.
Yes.
And they're experimenting.
Or it's more obvious that the humans are the bad ones in this. I mean, in all three of them, there's that undercurrent that we caused this and we continue to make it worse. But in this one, it's like sort of blindingly obvious that it's about military scientists and cutting people up, and I think that's arguably one of the subtextual metaphors in it as well, not just what's the word I'm looking for? Mistrust of the military. There is like an almost experimentation on animals theme running through Day of the Dead.
When you say experimenting on human beings,
or human beings,
which is what Hitler did. It's, and this is the thing when it comes to, I was going to say, the reason I think that, because you said 86 period, you said 86 for Day of the Dead,
it was 86,
is that's the same period where you got your Jasons and your Freddys and your Michael Myers. So literally that was where everybody was going down the slasher route, so anything else that wasn't slasher. And you think about it, it's easier to have one person in a mask or in prosthetics than it is to have a whole load.
A whole army,
And so that would go towards the decline.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the reasons Dawn suffered a little bit, because Tom Savini and I think it was only a couple of other people were doing the makeup, so they were struggling to get everyone done the same way. So, like, I mean, if you watch it now, the zombies look green in some shots and then blue in others, and he actually says on the audio commentary, like, the only thing I wish I could change about Dawn of the Dead is having more standardised makeup, because they all look blue now on high definition, but he perfected it by Day of the Dead. I mean, all the zombies look uniquely different in that.
You think about it, at the same time when they were doing that, Tom Savini, who, if I'm right, he was a medic in the military or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was a... Yeah, I think he did something with photography as well. But yeah, I think he was a trained medic as well.
So that's how so when it comes to things like Day of the Dead, he had experience, and he was one of the dominant people working in prosthetics at the time.
He was the maestro.
So you're looking at and how he would have been project to project to project to project. And I got to say, if for someone of I don't know how old he is now, I think
60s.
Yeah, but he looks good for his age.
He just looks the same, doesn't he? With a handlebar moustache and yeah.
If you get the chance, watch. Brain's gone. From Dusk Till Dawn, the series. He's in that. He's fantastic. He's not Sex Machine, but he's fantastic. He's got a line with a few scenes with the new Sex Machine, and he's just brilliant. And even Dusk Till the movie Dusk Till Dawn, the Robert Rodriguez directed, Tarantino scripted, he's brilliant in that as an actor. You watch him and he's like Tom Savini.
He's good in Planet Terror as well as the deputy. He's just. It's whenever you see him, you just think that's Tom Savini. That's not the character he's playing. Like it's just. I mean, he even forayed into directing with the remake of Night of the Living Dead, which isn't as good, but the effects are still obviously because it's Tom Savini.
I do love Tom Savini.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, some of the most iconic horror films he's worked on in the past.
Did he do Jason's makeup?
Yeah, he did. He went straight from Dawn to Friday the 13th. Then I think he came back to do the final chapter in '84.
He was born in 1946.
So he's 73. Yeah. Doesn't look half bad, does he?
He looks good. I follow him on Instagram, so I just think he's brilliant. I just really think he's brilliant. But can we classify Jason as a zombie?
Yeah, see, that's why the water muddies, isn't it? Because is Jason a zombie? Is Freddy a zombie? Is Michael Myers a zombie? Because they get killed so many times. I'd say Jason is probably closer.
Yeah,
definitely.
Freddy is
he comes back
Dream Demons.
Yeah, he's a demon. Yeah.
Michael Myers on the timeline which I'm going on right now, which is 1, 2, which is
1
1 and 1.
Yeah.
Which is
Michael Myers is more like a force than he is. Yeah, but I mean, I think they're all sort of playing off that zombie thing by bringing these serial killers back again and again. You know, like it's like Chucky as well.
Yeah.
Keeps coming back in a different doll. Just it's like mirroring the old Hammer Christopher Lee Dracula thing, isn't it? Where he's back every time, even though it's a different incarnation. You know, I think it's the same sort of thing. Like you can't keep a good stereotype down.
But when it comes to Jason, is more on, you know, because he doesn't speak
No,
or anything. But
and he's quite unique for one of those slashers because he's probably the only one you feel sympathy for in terms of his backstory.
Yeah.
Like he was a child when he was drowned and he was made take the piss out of, and whereas the other two, Freddy's quite clearly sadistic and Michael Myers just there's nothing there.
He's an unstoppable killing machine.
Yeah,
he's a great white shark.
he is. Yeah.
But Dawn of the Dead, you know, the way that everyone goes to the mall because that's instinct, that's what people do. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, and it was quite revolutionary because malls were new even in America back then. I mean, I think George Romero said he remembers that's the first one he saw for like 5 years. Proper big superstore malls that we see everywhere now. He said like that was the nearest one for miles. He said you didn't get things like that. That was why it was so easy to shut it down at night and film in it, because not many people could afford to go to malls back then. And I'm so glad he was able to do that, because it just looks, it's such a great setting for a horror film, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like a cabin fever, Evil Dead atmosphere, but writ large. I mean, even in this huge thing like a shopping mall, you could still feel claustrophobic and trapped.
And when they all start coming,
yeah, all the commercialism doesn't save you.
But it's true. It's like anytime there's a bank holiday or there's a day off, or people have days off, what do they want to do? Hey,
Go shopping.
Go shopping.
Yeah.
And it's
instead of going to the fucking pub.
Yeah. What should we do? Should we let's go shopping? You know, the only shops I'll go to, unless I really have to, is somewhere like HMV or Forbidden Planet,
Waterstones or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. If I can't go past the bookshop without going in looking.
Yeah,
something.
same.
So it's. But yeah.
But I mean, what do you think led to the downfall then? I think it's the slasher thing.
80s, yeah.
Writ large, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it was. People wanted. You give people what they want, and when Jason became big, then Freddy became big, then Michael Myers became big, and everybody was just throwing out
the
new slasher movie, the
definitely.
new serial killer of the week.
I think even Michael was riding off the coattails of the other two, because I mean Halloween was pretty done and dusted after the third one, because you know when they did Season of the Witch it wasn't anything to do with Michael Myers, so I think everyone assumed Halloween's done, and then in '88 you get Halloween 4 comes along, and then it starts up again, but you can quite clearly tell that it's off the coattails of the other two franchises, because it's got gorier and it just feels like they're not copying but imitating, I think.
But I think as and this is where in the early to mid 90s, obviously where I had problems, mid 90s I started having problems with the horror genre, is because you were relating to the serial killer, not the victim.
Yes, yeah.
And that's my big beef, and that's why I zoned out of horrors. But with something like the zombie, you can never stop them, and there's a clean line. Humans are going. The surviving humans, be they good, be they bad, you're not going to be able to reason with
the dead.
Yeah. Then if you get bitten, you're going to turn into one of those. So what's worse? You get bitten, then you
become
slowly
part of the mass.
Yeah. So you lose your identity.
Yeah, and I think is even something touched on in something, you know, totally unrelated, like Star Trek with the Borg. They're like a kind of zombie bad guy, aren't they? Where you become assimilated and you become one of those. And I think like the craze went further than it was initially thought. Even when it had died, things were still picking it up. You know, the idea of the zombie as a scary mass loss of individuality. That's what I think. That's what you're saying, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
you either try and survive or you become one of them, and you
Yeah.
come after the people you were trying to survive with.
I never actually put two and two together, but you are 100% right. The Borgar zombies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in First Contact, the woman that's trapped on the Enterprise with Picard, she's like, "Oh, what do you call these cybernetic zombies again?" And it just hit me that, like, that's what they are. Like,
Yeah.
they're just the same thing.
Here's the thing about, in my opinion, about good filmmaking. This is just not just filmmaking; it's anything. If you're a creator of if you do something creative, doesn't matter what medium it is. If you're a science fiction writer and all you read is science fiction, all you'll know is science fiction, and if all you
Yeah.
do is draw your inspiration from is science fiction, then that's all you'll write. You'll have a very, very narrow-minded outlook on what is the genre, because all you'll have is the conventions of what is in the science fiction genre.
Yeah.
But if you branch out and you've got a wide scope of what you like or what your influences are, then if you can take little bits from comedy, action, fantasy, romantic comedies, whatever genre, you can think of anything. If you look at a painting and you're writing science fiction, and you're inspired by a painting because you see something, if you're open-minded as a creator,
Yeah.
you can actually bring more to it than what you should have to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I like, is when you hear that people that who write films that are not influenced specifically by the genre that they're working in.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
to love the genre that you're working in to do something like that.
No. I mean, I was always quite sad that Romero, a bit like Lucas as well, never strayed from horror. I mean, I think his first film was a romantic comedy, but it's not. It's sad that you see these directors never move from the genre that they're famous for. Some of them, it's a shame we never got to see another artistic film from George Lucas, or like a musical from George Romero. I mean, how cool would that be? I mean, he did things like Creepshow, which was comedic, but he never really strayed from horror, which is fair enough because it's what he was good at. But I always wondered what could have been, like what we could have seen from.
I even thought that the core audience is more militant when it comes to genre flicks. Someone like Steven Spielberg can do so much things because he doesn't have an audience.
Yeah.
I say he doesn't have an audience. I don't mean he doesn't have a
A
specific
genre audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you got people who like Wes Craven,
Yeah, it's
Who-
specific.
and George Romero, and people expect them to do a certain genre,
Yeah.
and they can't deviate because that's what people expect. Because if they do something like a romantic film, then they'll be going, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
I don't like him doing that sort of thing. I want him to do this because it's so specific, like the horror is, that people really want him to do. That's it. That's all you can do because that's all I want you to do.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Spielberg, he can do more because nobody expects him to do another Indiana Jones film or another Schindler's List. So that's how he can deviate from one to
He
the
has
other.
the
He's doing a
scope.
musical now. He's doing West Side Story, his first ever musical.
Yeah.
And people go, yeah, I'll go and see it but there won't be everybody that saw Indiana Jones won't go and see West Side Story.
Yeah.
And everybody, it's like The Post came out at the same time as Ready Player One. I didn't go and see Ready Player One because it was from the director of The Post. I went to see The Post because The Post looked good.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with it being a Steven Spielberg film. It was because it looked good. I didn't go and see it because it was a Steven Spielberg film. But when you go see a Romero film,
Yeah.
you expect this. You look at Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
He did Yesterday. Yesterday, I don't think fared as well as your Sunshine, your 28 films, or your
Yeah.
even I don't think Slumdog Millionaires would have. It got all the critical acclaim, but I don't think it would have taken the same amount as money because people expect gritty from Danny Boyle.
Yeah,
They expect
yeah.
your Trainspotting, your
Trainspotting,
Trainspotting 2,
28
your
Days Later.
Sunshine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
most certainly.
and if they deviate, you'll have the audience. I mean, it's like Yesterday. I can guarantee you, people I've spoken to about Yesterday, if I said, "Oh, you like Yesterday?" Danny Boyle is absolutely brilliant. You want to watch 28 Days, or you want to watch Train Spotting or Train Spotting 2.
Yeah.
People go, I don't want to watch that because it's not the sort of
Oh,
film
is that
that I
horror?
like. Yeah.
Or like, oh, is that? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. It's just it's the same thing with sort of people like Clive Barker as well. When he came along, I mean, he undoubtedly revolutionised horror as well. But I find myself doing it. He's an author as well, and he writes a lot of fantasy. And I find myself saying with some of my friends, like, when's he going to write horror again? And I think that in a way is that limiting him, like because of what I want. It is a limit, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
if he wants to go write fantasy and he's good at that, then knock yourself out. But I shouldn't be the one to say what you write or don't write, or make or don't make.
But then again, that's always. But you do get the audience, and this goes to everything. Star Wars fans, the minority can be the worst because if you don't give them what they want, they'll be the ones that are all over the internet kicking up a stink.
Yeah, and nothing about the other people, 90% who liked it.
You write. You're a creator of content. You write what you want to write. If people don't like it, it's like Robert Rodriguez. When he did like the Dusk Till Dawn, the Faculty, the Mariachi trilogy. He also did Spy Kids. Now, I like Spy Kids, Spy Kids 3, Spy Kids 4. I don't know if he directed, but it's terrible. He went to watch Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Terrible, terrible film. But I went to see it because it was Robert Rodriguez. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But the Spy Kids films worked for me, and Sin City worked for me. But it's just one of the Shark Boy and Lava Girl just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But it didn't make me want to go, I'm not going to watch any Robert Rodriguez film again now because he did that. He did Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It's like everybody does something that doesn't work, but it's sort of like Quentin Tarantino's films.
Yeah, no one is the same with him, is it? Really?
No.
I mean, they're similar, but it's a shame. I think that the real loss with George Romero, who is sadly no longer with us, is that after he made the next Dead trilogy, which was considered to be, inferior to the first one, people were kicking up a hellstorm about, all Land of the Dead, that's terrible, and this is awful, and regardless of my feelings, I didn't think it was amazing, but it was nice to see the master back at work.
Yeah.
You think, but this cinematic movement wouldn't exist without this guy.
And he was still given less of a budget than the other ones because
yeah.
of his name.
Yeah.
He may have invented the genre, but he was still low on the totem pole when other people like
he's
David
still in the
Boyle.
ghetto. Yeah. It's just.
If he'd been in the UK, he might have had stood a better chance.
Oh, yeah. Or I think if he'd been part of the remake culture.
Yeah.
But he just refused to do that. I think. I mean, I don't think he's ever badmouthed the Dawn remake. I think he did say it was good, but he just simply said I wouldn't have them run.
Yeah, I got to give him credit. Zack Snyder, I thought he.
Yeah, that is one of the better horror remakes actually. Day of the Dead's awful remake.
I've not seen
and there's
that one.
so many Night remakes because Night's in the public domain.
For some reason, if you go on you're trying to type in Day of the Dead, you've got Day of the Dead, and you've got a sequel to Day of the Dead, and a Day of the Dead.
There's a remake and a sequel to the sequel. And Day of the Dead Contagion is one of them. It's terrible.
I'm gonna have to watch them.
I get the feeling they're just zombie films that were made for a budget and they slapped the title on.
Yeah, it was you got James Gunn.
Yes, I forgot about that.
George Romero is credited as writers for the remake, and of course Zack Snyder. Now, I gotta admit, I wasn't a 300 fan.
Oh, I like 300.
But I did like Watchmen, and I also liked Sucker Punch. But Dawn of the Dead. You you got the Stereophonics Have a Nice Day. Every time I hear that song,
yeah, I know, that's what I think of.
Yeah,
and the Johnny Cash song on the credits. What is it?
When a Man Comes to Town.
When a Man Comes to Town. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's but to me, like I said, that was the 2004, which was after Resident Evil and
28 Days.
28 Days.
Yeah.
So. But I tell you what, 28 Weeks, which was 2007, there's only one thing that pissed me off about it, and that's the ending. It's where the little kid goes into the helicopter. He wouldn't do that.
I know,
He's contagious. His saliva getting on you would turn you. That's the thing that pissed me right off. They would have left him there.
Robert Carlyle super zombie thing kind of pissed me off as well. But
he knows his way around
Yeah,
the underground.
it's
of
wait
London.
and hiding from the napalm and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's just, yeah, no, but the original, I mean, I think Danny Boyle said on many occasions that he wears Romero on his sleeves, doesn't he? Like quite openly with that.
I think you look at if you ever let me just pull up there again. This is what I love about IMDb is that you can actually do when we're doing this week 28. You look at 28 days later. We're going to have 28 days and 28 weeks. We'll just point a few things out. 28 days. Look at the casting on that. Cillian Murphy,
Yeah,
major star now. Naomi Harris
Christopher Eccleston. As
Yeah.
well, isn't it?
and Brendan Gleeson. I mean, these
Yeah,
are all names that
yeah.
have appeared in other franchises.
Yeah,
And 28 weeks. Robert Carlyle, Rose Byrne from Star Wars, amongst other things, and the X-Men movies.
Jeremy Renner as well.
Yeah, the Hawk. I always thought that because she was in the
And
Imogen
Idris Elba, I
Poots.
forgot about that. Yeah,
I also Imogen Poots, who was in the remake of Fright Night. I thought she would end up being huge.
yeah,
Don't see wrong about
she's
that.
good in a film called The Green Room.
Haven't seen
That's
that.
really good. That's really sort of singular horror. Patrick Stewart's in it as well.
Anton Yeltsin as well.
Yeah, it's a really good film. It's one. I think it was one of his last films actually.
Oh. Gone too soon.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
the start where you find out Robert Carlyle's Don is a total nasty piece of crap that you
Yeah.
hear with Survival.
yeah. That opening scared the absolute hell out of me because
Yeah.
we went to see it, didn't we, in an
Yeah.
empty cinema apart from us, and you hid like an absolute arsehole and scared me.
You started coming back from the toilets.
Yeah, no, yeah. That's what I wanted to mention. You just read my mind.
Fucker
Shaun of the
doodle
Dead.
doo.
Yeah. I mean, would we they have all admitted on that there would be no Shaun of the Dead without.
And they're in Land of the Dead, aren't they?
They are, yeah. It's the take your photo with a zombie, zombies.
And this is the thing where I was watching Zombieland 2, Double Tap. The thing that got me was there's a bit where you read two of the characters, which are... I'm useless for names. Tallahassee and Columbus meet up with their counterparts from the sort of like
Oh,
other
right.
alternatives. And I saw, as soon as because it's in the trailer, and as soon as I saw that, all I thought was the Shaun of the Dead, where they're halfway through the
Yeah,
film and they
yeah.
meet up with them. Like, my God, if he isn't ripping them off. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead. Okay, I've got to admit it's not my favourite in the Cornetto trilogy because I'm a
No.
big Hot Fuzzer.
But it is actually like a really surprisingly good zombie film as well.
Yeah.
Actually, even if you're not into the comedy.
I love the ending on the news. They've said it's raising effective monkeys.
Yeah, they
bees,
switch
and
it,
it's a
don't
load
they?
of shite.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very British apocalypse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's go to the pub and wait for it all to blow over.
The Winchester.
Yeah, the Winchester. Yeah.
I mean, look at the cast. Simon Pegg. I like Simon Pegg. I think he's brilliant. But
This was kind of on the. Yeah, it was the same year as the Dawn remake, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
I think it was
2004.
part of the zombie renaissance as well. I mean, part of the marketing for this that was quite unique was it was a rom-zom-com,
yeah,
which I quite like.
and it's the one that started off the big screen of the the trio of. I mean, they were in space, of course.
Yeah.
But Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost.
I think Space was quite underground though at
Yeah.
the time.
But it's just, and even having. I mean, this is the only one that doesn't have a James Bond in it. If I'm right.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
I forgot Matt Lucas. Oh, Matt Lucas.
Yeah, he's part of the.
The alternative.
Yeah, the alternative.
Yeah. We could, that's. Yeah, that's one film I really want to watch again because I do like.
It is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Zombieland 2 the other day. Didn't didn't do anything new, but other than introduce a new kind of zombie, which is also the kind of zombie realistically, there's the Dawn of the Dead zombie, the running zombies.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been years since I saw the first one, which came out in 2009. So it's good to see these characters and get the entire cast back 10 years later.
Yeah.
But it just, Zombieland 2 just seems to be it's.
See, Zombieland was a good example of like another zombie comedy done really well.
Doesn't take itself too seriously.
No, and
Fun.
like the whole thing with the rules and that. We've all in our heads got put our zombie apocalypse plans into motion, and it was nice to just see like this university kid doing it as well on the film.
Yeah.
You know, Rule 94 cardio or whatever. You know, like
It's the
we all
number two.
yeah, it's rule number 2. I was just doing like a random thing, but it was good to see like them having some fun with it.
Yeah, it's definitely, this one thing that, I mean, I'm not desensitized to violence and gore because you know I don't do violence. I can't say I don't do violence. I do like my action movie, but I don't do gore. But, you know, because the gore in its comic book,
It's
It doesn't-
it's easier to take, isn't it? Yeah. Whereas some of the gore from the more, shall we say, serious zombie films is quite intense.
it's like my fiance was going. It was a bit gruesome. I was like, I didn't see it that way because I just saw it as being.
Yes,
Cartoon.
It's cartoon. Yeah.
But like in something like Dawn of the Dead, where you see them reaching into a person and
Yeah.
eating their intestines, that
Thanks,
makes
Tom
me go.
Savini.
"Ooh." That is gross. But
Yeah.
because something like your Zombieland or your Shaun of the Dead is more of a comedy.
Yeah, it relaxes the tone. I think
Yeah.
the tone is everything with zombie film, because you can get zombie films without messages, and Zombieland's one of them. I think
Yeah,
like
definitely.
it's just a good old, romp. But then the ones that tend to have the messages are the darker, depressing, serious zombie films. Serious in quote marks.
It's the difference between sitting on the edge of your seat. If you're sitting on the edge of your seat, you're concentrating on what's going on.
Yeah.
Because you're getting all tension for the next scare, so you're just watching. But with something like your comedies, like your Shauns and your Zombielands, you're just sitting back there relaxing, just having a laugh. But
Yeah.
it's. I mean, if you even look at say Shaun of the Dead compared to The World's End, because the comedy's very dark. So if you haven't seen World's End, just skip past the next couple of minutes. The bit where you find out that Simon Pegg's on his last hurrah, his character, the King, Gary King.
Gary King.
When
Yeah.
Gary King's on his last hurrah because he's been slashing his wrists, and it's when the ending and everything is a lot darker, it's easier to go to that. But whereas something like Shaun of the Dead is all fun mixed in with a zombie.
Yeah.
But it's tonal. It really is
Yeah,
tonal.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
And I think that if you got someone on the edge, it's so much easier to imprint that message. The whole thing with like going back to World's End is that just because what you see on the outside, this guy all laughing and crazy, but because there's that dark undertone right from the start, because he's in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting.
Yeah.
It's something uneasy there from the start.
Yeah.
Even before the blanks come in. What are they called? The blanks?
The blanks, yeah.
Yeah, the blanks.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
It sounds like they're trying to censor a swear word.
Yeah,
doesn't
the
it?
blanks. I just love that film because what do you call it? They're not robots. They're blanks.
Each film sort of has that sort of zombie element to it, though, doesn't it? Like, because it's the zombies in Shaun, then it's the NWA and
Well, the
Hot
Greater
Fuzz, yeah, and then the blanks, and so they're all sort of like the bad guys that are brainwashed by a certain thing, and they are all zombie archetypes in effect.
Yeah.
The NWA don't listen to anyone but themselves, and only Sanford matters, and then blanks are all robots, aren't they?
Yeah. No, robots would imply that they're slaves.
But that's fine.
Oh, I love that. I love Hot Fuzz. I really love Hot
Yeah.
Fuzz. And we're going off track, but I just want to say it one more time. I love Hot Fuzz. I think it's a fantastic moment film. And if you haven't seen Hot Fuzz, listen to the end of this podcast, then watch Hot Fuzz. Go find it. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Or if you can't find it anywhere, wherever you are listening to this, go out, go on Google Play or iTunes or however you get your films. Amazon, you'll probably be able to get the Blu-ray box set and buy the box set, the Cornetto trilogy, and just watch it. You won't regret it. But yeah,
And we have the zombie films to thank for it,
yeah,
basically.
because isn't the first from Wright, the first conversation Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg had, wasn't it about?
Yeah. Well, there's an episode of Spaced where Simon Pegg's playing Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation, and he's dreaming, and he's there's like zombies in the apartment, and he's got a shotgun, and he's like, "You want some? Come get some!" And he's doing like cool sort of one-liners, and that was basically their pilot for Shaun of the Dead. Like they always wanted to do a zombie movie, so I think they're always, Romero was always in their minds, as a role model, as a filmmaker.
And then he loved Shaun of the Dead.
He did love Shaun of the Dead. Yeah, he He loved it so much that he missed the "We're Coming to Get You" Barbara reference by Nick Frost. But I mean, even what I do find ironic about the whole zombie thing is that Romero-based Night of the Living Dead, he has basically admitted that he ripped off the book of I Am Legend. Like the story of like being trapped in a house and there's thousands of these undead things coming after you. He says I basically ripped that off from Richard Matheson, and then come 2007, they've still not made a good I Am Legend film.
It doesn't work right. I Am Legend doesn't work because in the book it's the hero in quotes that is the villain.
Yeah.
In the books because he's the hero is the boogeyman in an evolved
in their
world.
new world. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it ends with like I think the last few lines are something like, "I've become the thing that I used to fear in the night. I am Legend."
Yeah.
Like he'll die, but he'll always be to them. That he'll be the scary guy that you tell your kids not to misbehave or he'll come and get you. And I think that's scarier than anything. Being left, you're going to leave that legacy behind.
And it's knowing you're the last, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Whereas the films try and make Robert Neville into like a hero, and he's like just trying to survive against all these. I mean, he is in a sense in the book trying to survive as well, but he's curious as well. Like he does experiments to see if they're really vampires, and he does actually go around and kill them while they're sleeping. And then you find out later on, basically, like you say, that all they were was sleeping. They weren't doing anything else. They're just the next level of evolution.
You can't have Will Smith play a bad guy.
No, you can't.
You can't. And that's what really.
I really would like to see him play a bad guy as well, just to see if he's got the chops for it. I have always liked Will Smith as a person, but you're not a fan, are you?
I don't know enough about him as a person, but I'm just in terms of. This is why I don't like it. I'm not. Anytime I don't like an actor, or an actress or a celebrity, unless I specifically say it's due to their belief structure or something like that. I don't dislike. I don't dislike Will Smith as a person.
I say, yeah.
I don't like. I think his wife sometimes, especially when she was trying to get the Oscar nominations thing. I thought if it had been someone that had talent, that actually going on about how they should have got nominated for this. How are you to say that someone shouldn't? And you got the likes of. I think that year it was like the likes of Chiwetel Ejiofor and Lupita Nyong'o. People like that, and Denzel Washington, more deserving. And Samuel L. Jackson, people like Will Smith hasn't done a role like yet that I've actually thought he was deserving.
Yeah.
So I don't. That's why I think Jada and Spike Lee, when he was making films that really weren't that good.
Yeah, Spike Lee sort of really pissed me off for a while with how mouthy he was.
But you've got but I don't hate Will Smith. I just don't think he's made a film yet that I actually really want to go out and say I really want to see this film.
Yeah,
that's my problem. I was never part of the Fresh Prince generation, so it's not something that I grew up with. If when it came to actors of colour, I was Eddie Murphy. I was a huge Eddie Murphy fan. That explains why I was such a guttermouth as a teen, and pretty much ever since.
Nah, he's good.
So Eddie Murphy up until his last decent film, which was Harlem Nights. That's why I swear like a trooper when I'm not doing podcasts. And but Will Smith has never been on my radar in terms of it's like now if I had a choice, I always say that if you got a choice of hiring someone Will Smith, you only get someone that's age apparent. When you get someone like Anthony Mackie, he's only a few years difference.
Yeah.
Or
Don Cheadle.
Yeah, Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
I have Don Cheadle any day. You put Don Cheadle in anything, I
like Don Cheadle.
I think he's cool.
And Chiwetel Ejiofor as well.
Chiwetel Ejiofor is absolutely fantastic, and when he started becoming huge after 12 Years a Slave and Doctor Strange, because I loved him ever since he did Kinky Boots. I thought he was superb in that. So when he started to get noticed in the last few years, I was like, yes, it took us time, but yes, I do. And Lupita Nyong'o, I just think she's superb.
Yeah, just need to put them in a zombie film.
Yeah, that would get me. You just think of it, anything. I will watch it because even Lupita, which is just voice talent as Mas Katana, she's
she's good. Yeah.
That's me going on about actors and actresses I like again.
Yeah, Torado.
Pardon?
It's our tirade over about that.
What's it?
Like that's
Yeah.
our like tangent over about
Yeah.
that.
We did this. Right? I hope you enjoy these little tangents we go on. But yeah, yeah. The 28 movies. I'm going back to these. I mean, I think that I'll be honest with you. I think Zombieland's going to be one of the. But going to Zombieland 2, I think that's going to be the last zombie movie we see. I think because there's been that whole big glut of it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of oversaturated a little bit again, hasn't it? So we're reaching like the 80s burnout again that we did with it originally. I mean,
I think that's to do with the TV series The Walking Dead. Because you think about it, if anything starts up big, everybody watches it.
yeah,
And it goes,
I mean, that's just had another spin-off announced as well. So
Jesus.
I think they're sort of bringing it back to life too much, so to speak. I mean, even if you go back to like when the first zombie spoofs started to appear, like Return of the Living Dead, that was sort of the ends being signalled, I think.
But they were like low budget gore fests.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it
So
was
it's
also
tying into the whole gore that was prominent in the late 80s.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that was also ironically directed by John Russo, I think, who co-wrote the original Night of the Living Dead. So it was I mean, it's kind of an unofficial sequel to Night of the Living Dead on John Russo's side, because he wanted to always. I think him and Romero had a fallout of some sort, and they each wanted to retain creative control over the original.
You see Return of the Living Dead?
Oh, it was Dan O'Bannon, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry, John Russo wrote it.
Let's have a look. But that was when the whole gore for gore was.
Yeah, it was big then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, if you go on his, if you go on Dan O'Bannon's IMDb page, it's essentially aliens.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what he's most famous for.
Characters.
And I think he wrote the screenplay for Total Recall as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Total Recall was...
Yeah. And Life Force, which is absolutely fucking such a great film if you want to laugh. Space vampires, basically.
I'm up for that.
It's great. It's hilarious. If you just want to watch a naked woman walk around the whole film possessing people.
Space Girl.
That's your film.
Is that Matilda?
Yeah, Matilda May.
Patrick Stewart's in it.
Yeah,
How
he
did
is.
you see that?
For like 5 minutes.
She was born in 1965.
It's a Toby Hooper film. Another unfortunate casualty of the genre. But I mean,
Oh, he passed away last year, 2 years ago.
yeah, he's been. I remember him dying actually.
Jeez. Again, going back to what we were saying, how people expect one thing and that's...
Yeah, that's the sad truth of horror, isn't it? A lot of the time, and science fiction doesn't really, unless you're an extremely good all-round director, you can't really move away from that to another genre. I mean, the only people I can think of that do are people like Ridley Scott and Spielberg and Kubrick. You know, the all-round directors that could do anything.
That's because nobody's expecting anything other than what the next film is going to be, and
Yeah,
that's why they always have like highs and lows. And
yeah. Well, they're because of like they're almost auteurs, aren't they? So
Yeah.
Tarantino makes Tarantino films and Spielberg makes Spielberg films. It's that sort of thing, isn't it?
no, with Tarantino, people, even I mean, the Death Proof is pretty much the only Tarantino I'd define as a flop.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the least successful one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was my least favourite for a while actually. But I don't really have a least favourite anymore.
I got a bit bad for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at the moment, but that's another for another podcast. But it's brave when they try something. But I think that like you're saying, I think that Walking Dead, for going on so long, outliving its
Yeah, I mean it's 10 years now.
Jesus.
Yeah, well, coming up for 10 years.
It doesn't appeal.
No, I mean I loved the comics when they first I read the comics for years, and then when the series was announced, I was so like pumped for it. And the first 3 seasons are fantastic, like perfect television. You know, like the drama horror ratio is so well balanced. And then I think going into the 5th season, it is literally the same formula. Like we find this new town, let's live there, it looks nice. Oh, there's a psycho that wants to kill us all, or we have to move to a new town. You know, it's almost forgetting the zombies are there now. Like the first 4 seasons at a push, they're fantastic. And then it just sort of takes a nosedive after that, I think. I mean, if you want to talk about zombies infiltrating another genre, Game of Thrones, the White Walkers are basically fantasy zombies. And, you know, look how well that did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've only ever watched the last few minutes of the last episode.
Oh,
'cause it
you
was
need,
only-
you need to watch.
Yeah, I know, because it's excessive
Get
nudity.
on that. There is excessive nudity, but it's such a... Like, because that's always the background threat of the series, is these things coming back from the past to kill us all. What does that sound like?
Yeah, I really. Yeah, that's when I was really into my zombie horror. That is the thing that is so scary. Is like I said earlier, is that you.
It's the grave coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's scarier than the dead coming back
Yeah.
to make us one of them? It's the vampire thing writ large, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think vampires do it on a smaller scale, and they make it kind of sexy, don't they? Vampires, just to lure you in. Whereas there's nothing sexy about a reanimated corpse if you
No.
really think about it.
No.
You know, and one of the great films for this actually, which sort of plays with the zombie thing, is Reanimator.
Oh. I
See,
thought it was more of a Frankenstein thing.
It is, but I mean, it's more of a Lovecraft thing
Yeah.
as well. But I mean, it's sort of playing with the, well, if you really want to have sex with a corpse, this is what it's like.
Yeah,
you know?
oh, gross. You should say Reanimation. You know what film came into my head right now?
What?
The sixth Jason film.
Oh,
Don't they
Jason
actually
Lives.
get electrocuted and comes back?
They do
Isn't
the
that
Frankenstein.
very-
yeah. Yeah, that was kind of like a soft reboot, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's, to me, that is.
That's
yeah.
where he's officially a zombie. I think.
Yeah, the
yeah.
6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
And yeah, to me, that's that's a late 80s zombie.
Yeah.
Except for when he gets put in the toxic waste in the sewer,
Oh,
and
yeah.
because he
Hey.
reverts back to a normal child.
Yeah.
She never was
That's
anyway.
weird, yeah.
And then he comes back in 9 with no reason. And,
Yeah, and it's a worm that's
yeah.
evil and turns us all into Jason.
Yeah, because
Whatever.
they had like a worm type demon in the last Freddy film. So
Yeah.
for Jason,
Yeah.
because anything one does, the other has to copy.
Yeah, and set up the inevitable versus
It was a complete pile of
what, Freddy vs Jason.
I hate that.
I
film.
liked Freddy
I
vs
hate that
Jason.
film. I could have made 2 changes and it would have been a perfect film.
I really liked it. I never got to see it because I wasn't old enough at the time. But it was. I remember when it did finally come on DVD. I was like, yes.
I sat in the cinema going, this is a complete load of bollocks. Here's one change that he could have made. You know, the characters that you relate to should have been Tommy Jarvis and some of the Elm Street survivors. There you got the element of suspense.
Yeah, I know.
There you're
They
caring
were just
for.
no ones, weren't they?
Yeah, they were nobodies. They were just, like I've said, but they were just there to be
Placeholders.
killed.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like when we were watching the non-zombie Jason in the remake, and that was scary because you actually cared for a couple of the characters
Yeah, yeah.
rather than you just waiting for the other assholes to get
Yeah,
next.
I
But
actually enjoyed that a lot better the second time around. I must admit, I hated that when I first saw it.
I liked it. I'm
And
sorry.
I think it was just, to be honest, I couldn't remember that much about it, so it was like watching it for the first time again.
Because I saw that at the cinema and I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, I did as well, but I saw it at cinema, but I didn't enjoy it, kind of. But yeah, I was the same year as Zombieland actually. The
2009.
remake, yeah.
You know, when Zombieland 2 comes out on Blu-ray, I will definitely be getting it because I just thought it was a painting by numbers, but it was just fun.
Sometimes
and
you need that.
stupid,
don't you?
yeah. Because you know, I watched a serious film the night before, and I was like, I just wanted some fun now.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was just taking the cinema, just.
What film was it?
Damn.
What film did you watch?
For Your Secrets.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. That's, if you're listening to this podcast, Official Secrets is not the sort of thing you'll be watching. Unless, of course, you really want to watch something different, which is in the same line of Spotlight and
Yeah.
All the President's Men and, you know, drama. But, come on, that's the reason why we do these sort of things, because there's more to life than just one genre of films.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why, if you're listening to this, if you venture backwards into some of the other podcasts we got on here, you'll see that we don't do genre specific because
No.
it's about the medium of movies.
Yeah.
So, on that note, that's a big F you to anyone that calls it a Marvel or comic book movies not real movies, because it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a cinematic, if it's on the screen, it's a movie. If it's over a certain, if it's not defined as an episodic TV series, it's a movie. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. And I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, you're supposed to like this or you shouldn't like that.
Yeah.
It's just that films, everybody's got their own tastes, and when it comes to horror, I think zombies are more relatable, because there is, like you
Yeah,
said, the scare there.
it's more. Yeah, it's the closer to the sort of. It doesn't necessarily have to be gory. It's just if it's got the message and the metaphor for what you're trying to talk about. And it's, I mean, you can tell zombie films that have bungled their message or have just ignored one completely. But like we said, like things like Zombieland, that works because that's a comedy.
Yeah.
Or Shaun of the Dead, you know. But I mean, even Shaun of the Dead, like there's a message in there. But because Edgar Wright's quite a cerebral filmmaker as well as a hilarious one. But the ones that use their message effectively, and like Romero's do, they're the ones that are always going to stay with us. In fact, it's so prevalent that even Romero himself has said people have noticed subtexts that I honestly consciously didn't 100% think of. You know, like in Night of the Living Dead, about the main character's a black guy. He said, I never consciously picked Dwayne Jones as a black actor to play him and say, I'm going to shake the system up. I just picked him because he was a good fit for the audition. He says, and now Knight's become this whole civil rights movement, you know, poster child. He says, and that's not what I intended.
But it's fantastic that it's
But
there.
you can do that, yeah.
And it's fantastic that Romero didn't specifically cast a type. He cast the right person.
He wrote the script as race, you know, with no races in mind. Like similar to how Dan O'Bannon wrote Alien sexless. Like all the characters could have been a man or a woman, you know.
Lethal Weapon, Murdoch.
Yeah.
You know.
You don't know he's black in
No.
the script. It's not said, is it? So
No.
it doesn't matter.
So, and it's just, I mean, Lethal Weapon is, you know, it worked perfectly for Lethal 2.
Yeah.
It did, but that's how it should be. You should
Yeah.
be able to
Cast whoever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, obviously.
But you know, even if it's going to offend some people that are just
And
should
casting a black guy as your main actor in 1968 was risky.
Yeah.
But he didn't think of that. He just thought, well, this guy's a good actor, I'll just cast him. You know, like he fit the role.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, it is how it should be.
It goes back to things I've been saying. I think I might have said before in another podcast, how genres that are not mainstream cinema, the fans of them are more open-minded to the real fans. We're not talking about the ones that use it as a poster for putting their hatred across, but it's the genres are the ones that are more inclusive to people of different colour, sexual orientation, everything, you know, because and religion, because at the end of the day, it's a smaller community.
Yeah.
But it's wider in the scope of people that come to it. The outsiders.
Yeah.
There's not one particular type of people. That goes back to the X-Men. The X-Men works to so many people because there is no one specific type of outsider. It's all those people that don't feel they belong in the mainstream.
Yeah.
And again with horror, you'll find that people who like it don't specifically follow a single type.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think that's
And zombies are, doesn't matter who you are or what you are, if you're gonna get bit, you're gonna get bit.
Yeah, you're screwed. Yeah. You can try cutting that limb off, but it might not work.
So no. They're not very like, oh, I'm not having him because it's a man. I only eat female zombies. Or I'm not having that because he's too thin, or he's too fat, or he's from a different belief structure.
It's everyone.
Yeah. And that's the scary thing. It's like, I'm a member of this. Well, you're still gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
If I can outrun you, you're God, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the whole like inclusivity thing is just there's like in Dawn of the Dead, there's a Hare Krishna zombie, and I just think like even they didn't get away from it, you know. Yeah, it's just I think it is a stroke of genius, like
Yeah.
coming up with that sort of cinematic movement when you're in your early 20s.
Definitely.
I do seek out the other zombie films by other directors. It's not just Romero, it's just that you can't talk about them without mentioning him.
I don't apologise the fact we've only mentioned a few because this is one of my Achilles heels.
Yeah, I mean,
is-
there's a lot of drock out there as well, though, like straight to video stuff. But there's some really good, like, quote unquote DTV zombie films out there. I mean, there's one called The Battery. That's on Amazon or Netflix. I think that's really good. But yeah, just check it out. I mean,
2012.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's not an abundance of zombie films out there to check out.
I'll say this, one thing about Amazon Prime and Netflix is, and this is one of the things I was doing research, is if you look closely, I mean, I've always said I wish there was a clone of me so you could watch all these films and tell me what they're all like.
Yeah.
Because the amount of B movies and things like that you find on there is unbelievable.
Oh, I know.
It's
Yeah.
like my watch list is getting bigger by the minute,
Oh, mine. Yeah.
and I just find it fantastic. Go and subscribe to these things. I'm not an advert for them, but if you like that sort of thing, you can find loads on there. I'm gonna put this forward now while we're still doing this, because it's still going to be Halloween next week as of the recording. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'd like to do, because we've done zombies. You know what the next natural thing after zombies is?
What?
Vampires.
Vampires. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said what there. I was just...
Vampires. So I think this has been pretty decent.
Yeah, so we covered that.
Yeah. See you all in the next
time,
podcast.
guys.
On CVW.
Callum. Bye.